Chapter 6. It was still dark when they woke the next morning, but it was later than usual. The museum wouldn't open until 1. Claudia was up first. She was getting dressed when Jamie opened his eyes. "You know," he said, "Sunday is still Sunday. It feels like Sunday, even here." Claudia answered, "I noticed that. Do you think we ought to try to go to church when we go out?" Jamie thought for a moment before answering. "Well, let's say a prayer in that little room of the Middle Ages, the part with the pretty stained glass window." They dressed and walked to the little chapel and knelt and said the Lord's Prayer. Jamie reminded Claudia to say she was sorry for stealing the newspaper that made it officially Sunday. "Come on," Claudia said as she was rising. "Let's go to the statue." They walked over to Angel and looked very closely. It was difficult to look for clues, even after their research. They were accustomed to having all the clues neatly laid out on a diagram placed in front of the exhibit. "Still, I still say that it's too bad that we can't touch her," Claudia complained. "At least we're living with it. We're the only 2 people in the whole world who live with it. Mrs. Frankenwheeler did, too. She could touch and hug it," Jamie teased. "I'll bet she knows for sure if Michelangelo did it." "Sure she does," Jamie said. He then threw his arms around himself, leaned his head way back, closed his eyes, and murmured. Every morning when she got up, Mrs. Frankenwheeler would throw her arms around the statue, peer into his eyes, and say, "Speak to me, baby." One morning the statue and Claudia was furious. "The men who moved it last night hugged it when they moved it. There's all kinds of hugging." She refused to look at Jamie again and instead stared at the statue. The sound of footsteps broke the silence and her concentration. Footsteps from the Italian Renaissance were descending upon them? The guard was coming down the steps. "Oh, baloney," thought Jamie. There was just too much time before the museum opened on Sundays. They should have been in hiding already. Here they were, out in the open with the light on. Jamie grabbed Claudia's hand and pulled her behind the booth where they rent walkie-talkies for the tour of the museum. Even though they were well hidden by the dark, as they squatted there, they felt as exposed as that great bear lady in the painting upstairs. The footsteps stopped in front of Angel. Jamie sent another mental telegram. "Get going, get going, get going!" Of course it worked. The guard moved on toward the Egyptian wing to cover the rest of his tour. The 2 children wouldn't even allow themselves a sigh of relief. They were that well disciplined. After 10 minutes lag time, Jamie tugged the hem of Claudia's jacket, and they cautiously got up. Jamie led the way back to the great staircase. As he did so, his logic became clear to Claudia. Thank goodness Jamie thought so clearly so fast, and thank goodness for just 20 acres of floor space. It would take the watchman more than an hour before he passed that way again. They stealthily climbed the wide stairwell, staying close to the rails. Step, pause, all the way to the top until they found themselves in front of the pedestal in which Angel had stood just the day before. Claudia paused to look, partly from habit and partly because anything associated with Angel was precious. Jamie paused to catch his breath. "Why do you think they changed the velvet under her from blue to gold?" Jamie whispered. "This blue probably got dirty. Come on, let's hide." Claudia looked again at the velvet. Light was beginning to seep into the museum. Something on top of the velvet caught her eye. One of the workmen must have been drinking beer when he moved the statue. "Most people drink beer," Jamie said. "What's unusual about that?" "They don't let visitors bring in beer," answered Claudia. "I wonder why they allow the workers to do it. What if he had spilled it on Angel? See where he must have put his beer can on the platform?" She pointed to the blue velvet covering the pedestal. "See the rings where the pile of velvet isn't crushed?" Jamie said, "Yeah, bulletin beer, those 3 rings." Then he began humming a commercial that he had heard during the baseball game on television last spring. "Gibbs!" Claudia interrupted. "Those are the marks of the beer can itself. After all, the emblem on the can is flat against the can. It could have been any kind of beer. Schiltzer, Riegling." Jamie stared at the blue velvet. "You're right, Claude, except for one thing." "What's that?" she said. "The rings of the beer cans would have crushed the plush of the velvet down, and the plush of the velvet is crushed up." "What kind of sentence is that? Crushed up?" "Oh, baloney, just go ahead and pick on my grammar. Go ahead, pick on my grammar. But you can't pick on my logic. The weight of the statue crushed all the velvet down except where the marble was chipped away and the plush was crushed up. Claudia, there's a crush up W in one of the circles that is also crushed up." "For goodness sakes, Jamie, that's not a W, that's an M." She looked at Jamie, her eyes widened. "M for Michelangelo?" Jamie was rubbing his eyes. "You know, Claude, I saw that symbol yesterday on the cover of one of the books I looked at." "What was it, Jamie? What was it?" How should I know? You were supposed to be doing the reading. I was supposed to be looking for pictures and clues. James Kincaid, you are something. You are absolutely something. As if it would hurt you to read one little thing. Just one little thing. Jamie said, well, we have a clue. We could know more already. We have an important clue. I'll bet they never even looked at the bottom of the statue. See? 3 rings and an F. Well, we have to go back to the library today and find out what that symbol means. But we can't. The library is closed on Sundays. Oh, Jamie, I just got to know. We'll check the museum bookshop. Don't worry, Claudia. I'll recognize the book. Right now, we better hide. Claudia glanced at her watch. Where are we going to hide? There's no furniture. We can't go downstairs again. Jamie picked up a corner of the blue velvet drape. Be my guest, he said, indicating the floor under the platform with an elegant sweep of his hand. Jamie and Claudia squatted on their platform, waiting. It was close quarters under there. Jamie needed only to point his fingers to poke his sister in the ribs. I say, Lady Claudia, I do believe we're safe and onto something really great. Perhaps, Sir James, perhaps. Claudia didn't think about their close claw. They were unimportant. They wouldn't matter in the end. The end having something to do with Michelangelo, angel history, and herself. She thought about the history test she had Monday at school. There had been a question on the test that she couldn't answer. She had studied hard and read the chapter thoroughly. She knew where the answer was, the second paragraph in the right-hand column on page 157. In her mind, she could actually see where the answer was, but she couldn't think of what it was. Angel was that way, an answer to running away, and also to going home again. Lay an angel. She knew it was there, but she didn't know what it was. It was just escaping her as the answer to the question on the test had. Except this was even harder, for she wasn't exactly certain of the question she was trying to answer. The question had something to do with why Angel had become more important than having run away or even being safe at the museum. Oh, she was right back where she had started. It was too stuffy under that velvet. How could anyone think straight? No wonder her thinking came out in circles. She knew one thing for sure. Maybe they had a clue. A crowd formed in front of the museum before it opened. The guard was to have removed the pedestal, and Drape was called outside to set up sawhorses and make early rows out of the mass of people. The museum couldn't spare Morris until after the police had sent help for the sidewalk traffic. When he finally moved the platform and drape and took them to the basement for storage, Claudia and Jamie had already left and were browsing around the crowded bookshop, peeking around the dusty book jackets about Michelangelo.